All right, guys, today we're gonna start build log on my personal build update. I figure if I don't start this today, new stuff's gonna come out before I get done with it. And y'all know how long it takes me to build a computer.
We interrupt this video to bring you a special message from iFixit. No, we interrupt this interruption with this interruption about new stuff from iFixit. Wish you had a new graphics card, but inventory sucks? Fix the inventory problems with iFixit. Whoa, don't drop it. Can't fix that with iFixit. Just kidding, yes you can. Wish you could take iFixit with you anywhere, but your pockets aren't big enough? Introducing the new More
and the new Minnow.
Take them with you anywhere. So get iFixit for your loved ones, or just get them for yourself.
So this is my RTX 3090 Strix card from Asus. It's got a Corsair block on it right now, which as you can see has a little bit of discoloration in there. This is pretty normal when you use a clear type coolant with any sort of a dye additive that's not pre-mixed. The dye I use is somewhat old. And when I say somewhat old, I mean from like 2016. So it caused a slight amount, not really discoloration. What you're seeing right here is some of the dye fallout, making it in between some of the layers of the block. And I get asked all the time, like, is it normal to see this sort of a powdery whatever kind of start to build up on there? And the answer is absolutely yes, because as you can see, there's no O-ring that protects the layers of acrylic that are sandwiched together. So stuff is going to make its way in there. But anytime I reuse product, I will go through and completely clean it and get it refreshed as best as I can. And since I'm thinking about using this in a vertical layout in my Spectre 3 case, I want to obviously make it look as nice as possible. Anyone that's run any sort of clear plexi nickel will knows exactly what happens over time. This actually looks really good given its runtime. And this is one of those things where if I had just left the coolant clear and I hadn't added I added like 1 drop of ocean blue dye to it to make it have that sort of a glacier look. Because remember, this was in the all white build that I wanted to look like it was water cooled. Yes, it was water cooled, but like ice cooled with the frosted tubes and stuff. That's the same build I did when I debuted my water block, where I threw it in there. I'm going to put a different graphics card in that setup. We'll probably end up using that system potentially for a new sim rig that we're gonna be building. But I wanted this graphics card with the Corsair block on it because I wanted the components to match. So today I'm gonna tear apart this block for the first time. I've never taken apart a Corsair block. Taken apart tons of EK blocks and such, very easily user serviceable. But because I've not done that yet with a Corsair block, I kind of want to see what it's all about inside. And then maybe we can get the vertical mount adapted to my Spectre 3. And then maybe we can throw the motherboard and stuff in there to see how it's going to start looking. And then I'll try and figure out what kind of tubing I want to go with. I haven't decided yet if I want to do solid black tubing, nickel plated tubing, glass tubing, frosted. I got so many options. I just don't know yet what I want to do. So let's start here. So this is not an ad for Origin. I'm just using their mouse pad because I want to protect the card from getting all scratched up. Now the nice thing about the Corsair blocks is the fact that they come with all the thermal pads and everything already pre-installed. The thing is, I've not taken one apart yet after I've installed it, so I don't know what the state of the thermal pads are going to be when I take it back off. Hopefully unchanged. But worst case scenario, come on, don't strip, there we go. The last thing we want to do is strip out one of these screws. Hey, oops. Didn't have the greatest of coverage in thermal paste. Look at that, there's parts of the die that are completely untouched. So one of the things I'm gonna do is obviously replace this with, screws will continue to fall out. Probably, look at the thermal pads, great touching of stuffs. So it looks like it's mounted down with a torque screws going that way, or Allen's or something. I'm just gonna start undoing screws and see what happens. That's typically how I build. So I need to get this off of there. Oh yeah, that's just the clamshell thing that then hid the leaking. Yeah, this one has the 3rd screw, obviously, because remember we did our videos about that. And also too, this notch right here didn't used to be in the early edition blocks. I was taking a Dremel and making them myself so the cables could come out. Look what's in there now. It's almost like they pay attention to the videos we make. There's a lot of teardown actually involved in this block. Whereas the EK blocks, they just have perimeter screws around the plexi and you undo those and it's done. Yep. So you want to be careful. The O-rings that are sitting right here. There we go. See? So it is a multi-layer. So that just gets the shroud off. Okay. All right, so the shroud is off. Now if you wanted to paint this, you could, right? So that's neat. And it is metal. Totally metal.
Totally metal, bro. Yeah. Gamer Spectre.
There we go. And that's how you get it to come apart. So now I'm gonna clean this all up. I've done plenty of videos on how to do that. We're gonna come back when it's all put back together. That way we can get on to the next parts of the build. So if you wanna know how to do this, I've done plenty of tutorials on this, and it's not too hard. I mean, this one was just with soap. I didn't even use the Crest 3D white toothpaste like I normally do, because there was nothing like caked on there. I mean, it's a slight, at the very top of the reservoir, or the cold plate, you might see a slight discoloring in there. That's only because it's a tiny little channel, like right here along the very top. And I just can't get my toothbrush down in there to get that little bit out. Whatever, doesn't bug me. Can't even really tell it's there. So I'm just gonna leave it. So the graphics card is now done, which means now I need to get my tower up here, and we need to get the motherboard, the vertical mount, and the graphics card in so I can start seeing where things line up. And I'm still not 100% positive which motherboard I'm gonna use, so that's what we're gonna try and figure out today. So this is that prototype Spectre 3 that I was sent like 4 or 5 months ago. Unless I get another power board for it, this is the prototype power board, which they did all the connections different. This is now just used for extra parts. Unless I replace a power board, then I have an extra Spectre. But I think I would much rather just have extra parts than an extra Spectre. So what I'm gonna do right now though is I have to take this panel off. That way I can get to this vertical mount right here, which the screws come up from underneath. And I'm not gonna just switch this panel because I don't want, as much as I love and support Singularity computers, I don't want this badge on here. Think of this like debadging a car. Like the radiators I put on here, if I use Corsair radiators, they have their little Corsair symbol on the side. I don't want that on there either. So one thing I want to point out too is a lot of people were telling me when I assembled it, I said these were M4x6s and they should have been, it says M4x8 in the manual. I ended up finding some longer M4x8s, or M4x10s actually, that we had left over, and I used those there to hold it. So those are nice and long now, not just a couple of threads hanging onto it like it was there. It's also an easy way to, when you're working in it, you can get your power supply and everything in here. Technically, you could take these two pieces off, but I think it'd be easier to actually do it this way and then put the top back on when you're done, than working through it sideways and having the top block you. So, I mean, having built in one of these already for Post Malone's build, if you guys remember the Post Malone build, it was based off of Spectre 1, and it was a custom one-off build that there were some things that weren't necessarily easy to work with, like the front grille, resembling Bentley, was super nice. But then we were like, wait, there's no way to get to the screws for the radiator. So we had to get creative, but I have no idea what happened with that build. He literally ghosted after he got it. So we have a couple of different mounting options here. So these two screws line up with those two holes. Where is it? There it is, right there. But I can scoot it back to there if I want it to not be so close to the edge. So that's nice. It changes the way I have to route certain things in terms of tubing and whatnot, but I like having the option. And then this is the L bracket that goes right there. And if I mount it farther back, then it just goes like that. But I still don't know if I like it that far out. You know what I mean? So I gotta get the motherboard in there right now. There's a lot of dead space here. Yeah. I mean, maybe the motherboard will fill some of that. So as much as I would love to use this EATX board on here, and I already showed this when we talked about the original Spectre 3 build, like the prototype they sent me, the 90 degrees just aren't gonna work in this case, and I hope Daniel comes up with a solution, because the problem is where the tabs are. So you got this tab, which has to go this way on there. You can see now the length of this cable is clearly not gonna work. They've got this 90-degree adapter, which is, again, it's a prototype, that's why it's kind of ugly. That covers it, and then it's a really weird looking, like that's just dumb looking like that. So I'm not gonna use this board, which sucks. I really wanted to use that one. I think the EATX looks nice because it covers all the plexi. Now part of the plexi will show. It's fine. So let me go ahead and get my water block on this board since I am gonna use the Hero board now. Again, ours has the correct capacitor. I have no worries about it. And then once my block is on there, we'll get that mounted down, and then we'll get the GPU in there, and then maybe we'll get some rads in there. All right, so this is a little bit awkward when it comes to thinking about wiring and stuff, only because it's non-traditional. So I've got my RGB cable coming out of my block, running along the side of the RAM right there, and up out of here, and then it's going behind the board right there next to that particular fan header. I gotta make that stop poking out. Running behind the board in such a manner that it won't get pinched and coming out right here and attaching to one of these RGB headers there. So that's nice and clean, and that's what I love about the ARGB power distribution, or lighting distribution. But I've got to think about this in such a weird way, because I want to use I'm thinking about using the Lee & Lee fans, because I really like the Lee & Lee SP or AL and SP fans. But there's no way to get wiring from the back if I were to mount something back there, which I can't technically anyway, right? So like, it's not like there's some back panel that covers anything. It's just solid plexi back here. I've got to think about where things are going to go, and I have to kind of like extrude the wiring out from the power board. Nice thing is there's going to be a lot of room down on the bottom right here once I put the power supply in, because all it's going to have is PCI Express and plugs plugged into here, and then my power board, my box for the Lee & Lee can go down here, and then I just got to figure out how I'm going to get the wire down here and look nice. So I feel like the one thing the Spectre is missing is maybe a wire channel vertically somewhere that allows you to hide this little stuff in. So I think I want to get the power supply wired in down here, only because of the fact that once it's wired into the 24 pin and then these EPS and PCI Express right there, that's it. And the cool thing about these new power supplies from EVGA, this is the G6. This is a 1,000-watt power supply, and look how tiny it is. Yeah, it's an ATX power supply, but it's super short, which is awesome because it's going to give me a whole bunch of room in here to mount up the stuff that we already talked about. So I don't need any of the cables that come with it, because we already got our cables right here that are specific to the power board from Spectre, or from Singularity Computers. All right, so I gotta take this part off. I was hoping to be able to do it all just from the top, but now with the top and the side off, there's gonna be all kinds of room. There we go. So there's that. PCIe 8-pin times 4. Okay. EPS in on the left are that one and that one, because they got a white square around it. So that's EPS, and these 4 are PCI Express. Yeah, that's all the power now. The power board is now fully powered up. Not really a fan though of this hole here, because now I can see the wires down there. So the power supply is in now. Now, it's not nearly as tippy because of the fact that there's some weight out front. The cool thing about this is this can just wire down through there for the RGB plugs. Okay, so this is a 3-plug. So we've got 1, and these could also be shorter. And maybe I'll get Daniel to send me some shorter ones. 1, 2, 3. Because it'd be neat if these were all sleeved together. That actually looks kind of cool. So I gotta look at it from all angles, right? Because the perspective I'll be looking at the camera, or the computer, is more like this. Nice. Let's throw some RAM in there. See what it looks like with RAM in there. Nick, can you give me my 128 gig kit? All right, so the EPS power pins, we're waiting on those. Apparently we don't have those. These aren't the right ones. So I think I'm gonna have all new custom cables made anyway. They're a little bit more proper length. Anyway, I wanna see how much room we have here with the radiator and such. So this is a Corsair rad, and I'll probably end up taking off the Corsair logo. Not because I don't like it, but like I said earlier, I want this to be like more of like kind of like a D-badge deal. Although I feel like I need to run a thicker rad here just to look correct. Yeah. Yeah, you do. Because that's gonna look really like skipped leg day and arm day. Skipped all days. I mean, 2 of these is plenty of cooling, or I could go push-pull, but that's a lot of fan cables. I do feel like I need thicker rads now. I mean, I can certainly fit them. Look at that, I can go like a 60 mil rad and still fit it if I wanted. I think that's where we're gonna stop today. I now know what I need to order. I need different cables that are shorter so I could not have to have as much slack hanging around here. Thicker rads. I don't think I need to order anything else like block-wise. I'm gonna have to order some fittings and such. 128 gigs of RAM. And it's funny how like the gap between them isn't the same. Look at that, like that one's over farther. It's like we need RAM combs. And just like my system at home, I think it's gonna be clear fluid. I don't think we're gonna run any colored fluid at all in there. And this is turning out nice. So fluid order, pump is here. This is outlet. So we would go from here probably to GPU, out of GPU into CPU, out of CPU to top rad probably to here, and then probably from here to this front rad, out of the front rad into here, which is the return. So that's probably the way the order would go. I might look at some pictures of other people that have built in the Spectre to see the kind of order they came up with. This is looking quite nice, if I do say so myself. All right, guys, if you have any suggestions for this build and what you think would look nice, I think in terms of colored cables, I might just add some silver cables in here to match a lot of the silver bits that are also in here. I did say I wanted a gray and black build, like a silver and black build. So I might order some of the silver and black fittings. Like some of the EK fittings look really nice with the silver inside with a black collar. I might end up going with those. Type of tubing yet, I haven't decided. I think nickel would look nice in here. Phil and Nick don't agree with me on that, but I think nickel would look nice. Glass would look really classy because of, obviously the see-through here. Probably won't do a frosted tube because the frosting I don't think will go very well with this because everything else is so shiny. But sound off below how you guys feel about this build and what you would change if it were yours. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.